Hi guys, it's Dakota. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to my channel. I'm glad you could be here. I'm excited. So, as you can tell by today's title of the video, something like, I haven't figured it out completely yet, but I think it's Kitchen Witch, but I can't cook. We're going to talk about that, but it coincides with today's Sabbath, which is Lughnasadh, Lammas, First Harvest, whatever you like to call it. We are August 1st here in the Northern Hemisphere, and so today is Sabbath of Lughnasadh, um, which I do usually call the First Harvest. um, but anyway, so I'm going to talk a little bit about both and how this video came to be. So today I'm just sort of talking. I hope you'll stay and watch the whole thing. All right. So I have recipe books. I do, and I probably have a few, and I think I have one Kitchen Witch book. So when I was reading up on kitchen witchery, um, before I started this video, I mean, I already knew what I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to know a little bit more about kitchen witchery, like history, just facts and stuff like that. Well, the best I could gather is that, kitchen witches, first, they really like to cook. The kitchen is the heart of the home. The kitchen is sort of the heart of the home. If you ever notice, people like to gather in the kitchen, and probably because that's where the food is. And a lot of kitchen witches are they're either homesteaders, or if you're the cook of the family, you're the stay-at-home person that maybe takes care of the children, takes care of the home, and does the cooking. So and most of the cooking then is it's done by scratch. They make everything from scratch. So that was really all that I could pretty much gather. Now, I did enjoy this part, and that is there's a little bit of magic, if you think about it, to cooking. Even if you don't have any labels, if you don't go by any labels, like, oh, I'm a witch and so I practice magic, or I'm this and you know, we all sort of fall under that category when we are cooking something of magical beings. And here's why. Because, first of all, when you're doing magic, if you are going to create a magic, if you are going to do a spell work, whether it's healing or for prosperity or for love or whatever it is, that you're going to do, sorry, my hair's getting in my face, this spell work, the first thing we have to do is, and let's take it one step further. We're going to be doing ritual, whether it's a moon ritual or whether it's Sabbath. Here's what happens. The first thing we do is we gather the ingredients. We gather the things that we're going to need for that particular event, whether it's spell work, ritual, whatever it is. Well, the same thing happens in cooking. When you're cooking, you gather your ingredients for the recipe. So if you decide you're going to bake this cake from scratch, you have to make sure that you have the right ingredients. Or you're going to make some chicken fancy dinner, you want to make sure that you have to have the ingredients to mix that all up and have everything that you need. You need to have your proper tools, proper bowls, proper pans. Some require a mixer, some require that you do it by hand. So cooking is very magical in that respect. And so I actually learned a little more respect for that, for those of you that do cook, but also for me when I do cook something, because, oh, I'm doing magic. And so now I have a different, a different way of thinking about doing this thing called cooking. Kitchen witch, but I don't cook is true. First of all, I mean, I rarely cook. Well, I cook at least once a week, sometimes twice. I try to get 2 cooks in a week, and those happen on my days off. But I try, like if I cook on Sunday, I want to make sure I cook enough to have leftovers on Monday. because I don't want to cook on Monday. And that means Tuesday I just have to cook something simple to get us through Tuesday night, because I'm not cooking the rest of the week because I work. And Wednesday, I'm not even home. Wednesday is my long 12-hour day. So I'm not going to cook. Now, I have had, okay, and let me just say this. I don't like to cook. I don't like it. I'm not good at it. And things that I have cooked don't really taste that great. That's the truth. Which is kind of odd because my grandmother, who was a homesteader, I mean, one of the original, not the original, but I'm just saying, was a homesteader because that's what they did. She had a huge garden, everything, potatoes, carrots, all the vegetables, fruits, small orchards, chickens. They didn't have, livestock like cattle or pigs, anything like that. But they did have chicken, and they had chicken, and that was what Grandma did. She cooked, always in her little house dress with her apron. That was Grandma, and that's what Grandma did. Grandma cooked. She baked, and everything was from scratch because that's what they did. My aunt, my mom's sister, was a chef. That's what she did. She loved to cook, and she was good at cooking, and she was a chef. My mother loved to cook. She loved to cook. She loved to entertain. I'm an only child, and it was just me and Mom. No dad involved. Just me and Mom from the time I was baby. And so she loved to cook and loved to entertain. So, and she's a very, very social woman. She was a very social woman. So she had, a ton of friends. So whatever holiday or whatever occasion, it could just be, hey, come on over. They were having a sale on such and such steaks or whatever. And she would make these enormous, meals. And, but here's the thing. Being an only child, and I know we all say, oh, I was a good kid. No, but I really was a good kid. I was a good kid. I mean, my mom was pretty strict with me having manners. And the one thing that my mom did not like was me in the kitchen. Perfect. I'm out coloring, or I'm outside playing, or, whatever kids do, because Mom doesn't want me in the kitchen. So I'm not going to be in the kitchen. It was awesome. But I never learned how to cook. I never learned how to cook. Now, is that an excuse? Okay, sure, yeah, it's an excuse. But guess what? I have cookbooks. I don't like to cook. I don't like it. I just don't. It's not my thing. One is I hate going to the grocery store. Hate it. It's not my thing. Probably because I don't like to cook. So, all right. So we've got that. We've got that accomplished. I don't like to cook, and I come from a lineage of cooks, and I'm not one of them. All right, so kitchen witch, but I don't like to cook. All right, now let's go. I'm gonna tell you this. So I have like this one kitchen witch book. It has recipes in it and stuff, and it kind of talks about how to be a kitchen witch or whatever. I don't want to be a kitchen witch. I don't like it. I don't like cooking, but to do this video, I thought, what? Let me just read a little bit about the history or whatever in this book, and so I learned that part that kitchen witches tend to be nurturers and caretakers. They love cooking for the community. Oh, I cook too much, and they give it to the neighbors and what have you. And but one of this really cute story, I guess. I don't know if it's real, if it's folklore or whatever, but it's fun. So apparently the word kitchen witch came from like Sweden or Norway or Germany, those places, and a lot of them had, and some we still, the kitchen witches that you hang in your kitchen. She's usually she kind of looks like Baba Yaga, actually. She has a little bandana on her head, and she's always on a little broom. And she's the kitchen witch, and she's to bring about good fortune and good meals. That everything is good in the kitchen. So, but, so the kitchen witch, coming from this story, she's a nurturer, she's caring, she's loving, she's tender, you know, she's a very, very kind woman. But if she would go in and her milk was curdled or something was spoiled or bugs were in the whatever, she would blame that on the bad witch. And so she would do magic, and the magic would be so that the bad witch's bread, when she made bread, would not rise. Okay, so that was her curse, was, you know, putting on the bad witch, your bread is not going to rise because you curdled my milk or whatever. All right, so now, how does mixing this in with Lughnasadh? All right, so you know I teach my Witchcraft 101 class. It's a year long. We do follow the wheel of the year. We discuss every single Sabbath on the wheel. We go over all the details, the history, everything about the Sabbats. And then usually we will have the following week, we will have the ritual for that particular Sabbath. And even though we're having ritual because it's a class, it's still structured, it's still academic. There's still some lessons in the actual ritual itself, but it's fun. You know, it's not like hardcore teaching, you know, kind of thing. But we cannot do every single Sabbath because it's just it's too much. You know, there's so much. Hang on one second. Sorry, my phone was buzzing. Um, there's so much structure that they have to learn and that I want them to learn, that I feel that someone that's just learning the craft, the path, witchcraft, whatever you want to call it, uh, needs to know. We need to have that root and that foundation. So there are some Sabbats that we don't actually have a full-on ritual for. Lughnasadh happens to be one of them. However, they still get the actual class on it. They're going to get the history and the correspondences and the gods and the goddesses. They're going to get everything that, you know, that I can fit into one night's class on that particular Sabbath. So today is the first harvest. Today is Lughnasadh. So blessed Lughnasadh to all of you. And if you follow, and this, we're in the Northern Hemisphere. So today is the day, and it's Monday, August 1st. So last week, I decided for class, we're going to learn about Lughnasadh. That's going to be the class on Lughnasadh. But for whatever reason, I was feeling like, I mean, I knew I wasn't going to do ritual. We were not going to do ritual. But I was feeling a pull, like I needed, what was coming forth was a grid. I needed to do a grid for the first harvest, for Lughnasadh. And look, I don't question that. I just go, okay. So, and you know, the picture was very clear in my head, what I wanted it to be, and I'm not going to even say what I wanted it to be, how it was to be. That's probably better, how it was to be. Like I saw it, I already knew. So one of the things was, and the class didn't know about it. So I needed some wheat, and we don't have any wheat here in our area. I went to places like, I went to the dollar store, I went to Michael's, you know, the craft stores. I went to, what is that called? Like the dollar, I went to the dollar store, but there's another, it's called Dollar General. I went to them, but I couldn't find any wheat. It was, you know, like limbs, or, you know, whatever. And one of them had plastic, and I was like, ugh, no. So I couldn't find any. And I was like, well, that's okay, you know, it's whatever. So then I thought, when I got home that night, all of my black-eyed students, they're everywhere. They're beautiful, just happy little sun faces all over the place. And I thought, oh, I will cut a lot of this, I'll cut a ton of these flowers and I'll just have them all over the altar. And, but then I got to thinking about that and I'm like, well, then they're going to be wilty and, a grid. I don't know. Anyway, what came was make bread. Now, I have never made bread a day in my life, ever. I have bought frozen dough where you take the frozen dough and you throw it in the oven and it comes out and it's bread. I've done that, and I've even gone so far as to sprinkle a little lavender or maybe some pumpkin seed or something like that to fancy it up a little bit. I have never made bread in my life from scratch, ever. And that was sort of the calling that was coming through. That was what was coming through was, part of Lughnasadh is he harvests, the god harvests, sacrifices himself in the in the grain, in the wheat. And I thought, as my sacrifice to show gratitude for this time of year, because most of the time, honestly, most of the time, I would just light a candle. I might add some honey to it. I might put some herbs on it. And really, that's all I do. I don't really feel this time of year for me. But I'm not going to let it go either. I'm not going to just let it slide. I understand the wheel and I understand the importance of today, of this Sabbath, I should say, of this Sabbath. It's not a day. It's this period of time. So I thought, I'm going to make some bread. So I got online and I started searching my cookbooks. It was the process to make bread was huge. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. And I didn't want to go buy a frozen loaf. I wanted to put some sacrifice into it. So I went online and I found a video. I typed in something like, easy, no fuss bread recipe. And I found this recipe, and she's a homesteader. She's got like 4 kids, and everything she does is from scratch. She doesn't have a lot of time to go to the store and get stuff because she's busy in the garden and with the children homeschooling, but she makes bread 3 times a week because of the kids, and she makes loaves like sandwich bread. So I went, okay, I happen to have a loaf pan. This is perfect. And it was so easy. I had everything that was in the recipe I had in the house, with the exception of the active dry yeast. So is that what it's called? Active dry yeast? So yeah, active dry yeast. I had to write it down because I knew I'd forget. Because I've never used it before, ever. But what I did was I took a picture. She had the recipe all written down. I took a picture of it and I took that to the store and I thought, I'm getting exactly what she has. Exactly. So I bought a fresh thing of flour, same kind. I bought the same brand of yeast, and the yeast came in jars, but it also comes in these little pre-measured packets. Each packet has a certain amount in there, and it just so happens that this packet had the right amount that she used. So she said, I don't have time to fuss with measuring spoons and this and that. So this way she just takes one packet, snips off the top, pours it in, throws it away, good to go. Perfect. Easy, easy, easy. So that's what I did. I turned the video on and I'm going to make this bread the night before the class. So and because that is going to be the center of my grid. Makes sense. That's going to be the center of my grid. And I did use carnelian and citrine. I used selenite, which is, you're going to see the pictures of my grid at the end of the video. So stay tuned. It's nothing great, it's nothing fancy, but you're going to see. So the center of the bread, or the center of the altar would be the bread. So I turned the video on. I have the directions right here. And I'm telling you, it's like 3 cups of this, put in your package of yeast, this much salt. She said you can use white sugar, you can use brown sugar, or you can use honey. And I went, ooh, I love honey. I take honey every day. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to use honey. And I went, no. She used brown sugar. Stick with what she's doing. So I use brown sugar a lot. So I had brown sugar. I mean, everything. And she's talking me through it as I'm doing it. So you do it, your bread, you mix it all together with a fork. I used a fork. She didn't use a mixer. She used a fork. I used a fork. You mix it until you almost just can't mix it anymore with a fork. I did. It's going to be kind of stringy. It was. Put your flour on your table. I did. Dump your bread dough on the flour. Yes. Sprinkle it with some more flour. Knead that in. Put a little more flour. Knead that in. Keep kneading it. And she had like this folding way, and I was trying to copy her. But she said it doesn't matter. You just knead it and mix that flour all in. If it's still sticky to the touch, you just keep adding a little flour at a time, like just sprinkle a little bit at a time. And that's what I did until finally you can get it into a ball and it's not sticky. And that's what I did. And then you take that and you put it in the bowl that it came out of, which I did. You don't have to clean your bowl or anything. I put it in there. Take your dishcloth, put a dishcloth over it, put it in a warm place for 1 hour. She put hers on top of the refrigerator. Well, my air conditioner vent is right there. So I said, that's not a warm spot. So I put mine on top of the stove, didn't turn the stove on, pushed it back so that no fan, no ceiling fan or anything was on it. Dishcloth over it, 1 hour. Set my stove for 1 hour, set my cell phone for 1 hour. 1 hour, the alarms go off. I go back in. She's like, grease your loaf pan, because you're going to take the bread out, you're going to put it in your loaf pan, you're going to punch it down, it's called, and then you're going to put it in your loaf pan, let it sit, put your cover over it for like another 10 minutes, and then we're going to bake it. Okay, awesome. So I get it all greased and ready, I set it aside, I get my dough, I pull it up, I pull the thing off, flat as a pancake. Flat as a pancake. It didn't rise. So I went, I wonder whose milk I've curdled. I wonder whose, soup I spoiled, because I must be the bad witch, because my bread did not rise. And it did not rise. It was, when I put it in, it was in a ball. It was in a ball. And it melted down and it became flat like this. And I touched it and it was stringy. I don't know. Somebody said, was it the yeast? Well, I don't know. I mean, the yeast, brand new in the package. It was in the grocery store. I don't know. Maybe it was expired. I don't think so. I did everything that she did. She talked me through it as I'm reading the instructions, and my bread didn't rise. So I ended up having to I threw it away because I was so angry at, because I was so excited, I was so frustrated. This is why I don't cook. And I was like, this is why I don't cook. I don't know how, I don't know what I did wrong. I hate this, this is dumb. I've wasted all this money. I've wasted this ingredient. I threw it out in the trash. So then I went, okay, fine, whatever. Well, tomorrow is class. I don't have anything for the center of the altar. Whatever. I'm not going to go buy a loaf of bread just, for that. So when I get there, I'll just take the altar down. So before class, I thought, I'm just going to leave the altar up because this is a funny story. I'm going to tell them, that I'm the bad witch because my bread didn't rise. I've curdled somebody's milk. And so I just left the altar, and I thought, maybe I'll just get the cauldron and put the cauldron in the middle and we'll burn some intentions or whatever. But, I get tired of just burning intentions. I mean, there's more to magic than just that. Writing out intentions, writing petitions. There's more to it than that. But the worst case scenario, I thought I'll ask them if they want to do that. We'll put the cauldron down and that's what we'll do. So I'm sitting there and all of a sudden, boom, it comes in. When the class got there, I said, can you guys head on out to the classroom? There's an altar sitting there. Don't touch it. Just, leave it, sit down, look at it, chat. I'll be right there. I'll be right there. A couple minutes. I'll be right there. Everybody goes out. I reach up. I grab a bag of popcorn. 2.5 minutes later, I got a bowl of popcorn. I walked out there and I set it in the middle of the altar and I said, we're having popcorn. And so we sat around the altar and everybody had a little bowl and we all got popcorn and we just chit chatted and had friendly talk and just talked about things, and it was really, really nice. It was really fun. And we did that for about 15-20 minutes. And then I said, we've got to get the class going. So now we're going to talk about, Lughnasadh, and I'm going to give you all the information. And so hopefully I know they have to be doing something before next class for Lughnasadh because they got a homework assignment. And, but it was so fun. And then I thought about it afterwards and I went, I mean, corn, hello. We've got corn everywhere here in Eastern North Carolina that is not ready. See, this is where the first harvest doesn't really fit with where I'm at in Eastern North Carolina, but it's still the first harvest, and corn is part of the harvest. And so I went, okay, the corn wasn't ready, but I put it in the microwave for 2.5 minutes and it became ready, and we sat down and we had that popcorn in the middle of our grid, which I had carnelian and citrine, so it was about abundance and success, and then I had selenite for clarity, because, okay, abundance and success, but you've got to have clarity to figure out how to get to that point of abundance and success. And if we're talking about a harvest, like literal harvest, literally digging a hole and planting a seed, and then, your corn comes and you have to harvest it. So that's literal, or figuratively speaking, symbolically speaking, it's the same thing. We planted seeds at Imbolc. We did. We planted sunflower seeds at Imbolc, real seeds at Imbolc, and at midsummer, we did the whole, that was the harvesting of the sunflower. So yeah, so I think that it was just super appropriate and it was so fun, and yet it was so, for me, and it was so powerful for me, the message that I rarely do I have a ritual or any kind of thing for Lughnasadh other than lighting a candle. Usually I like to make a beeswax candle, and I just put, this year's, what would be this time herb that corresponds with this time of year into my wax, a couple of drops of honey in my wax, roll it up and light it, and and thank the ancestors, because I wouldn't have the means to do that if it wasn't for them. However, this whole thing with the popcorn, I just loved it, and I thought, you know what? I think I might end up doing this again. Maybe next year. So, it was really fun. I really enjoyed it, and I loved the message that I got. So, so there you go. Pictures coming up. Putting them at the end of the video because I don't edit and I don't know how to put them in between the video. I could have shown you, but I don't know how to do that. So anyway, all right. So, Blessed Lughnasadh, Lammas, first harvest, may you just have abundance, have success, be happy, be kind, observe. We are lucky. We are in some really tough, hard times right now. Send that kindness out. Send it out. Be thankful. And hope you enjoyed this. I had a great Lughnasadh. Thanks to my class, and thanks to Spirit and the guides, and to the ancestors for sending that message in. I loved it. Thank you. Talk to you guys later next week. Bye.